It came to light after our marriage that my in-laws were $100,000 in debt. For some reason, it became my responsibility to repay their debt. I tried to endure it for the sake of my family, but then I found out. I can't forgive them. They were just having fun behind my back, planning to use me to repay their debts. From that moment on, I put a plan into action to revenge my husband and my in-laws, who would be rejoicing that the debt is fully repaid 5 years later into hell. My name is Mary. I lost my mother at an early age and lived with my father, but he passed away a few years ago. The one who cheered me up when I was down after becoming alone was my old friend. It was through this friend that I met my husband, David. I met David at a bar where I went out for drinks with my old friend after a long time, and we ended up drinking together. He had just been dumped by his girlfriend at the time and was complaining about it over drinks.
I'm lonely. Is this really how my life should be?
The one who heard that and proposed enthusiastically was my friend. Mary is single right now, isn't she? Why don't you guys date? My friend, who was being playful, made David and I exchange contact information and even set up the next date. It felt somewhat forced, but she seemed to know that David was actually my type, as expected of a friend who has known me for so long. I was a little excited about the date with David that she had set up. In conclusion, I had a great time with him. It didn't feel like our first date at all. After that, we went on dates almost every week. When I first met you, David, it was right after you broke up with your ex. Why did you break up with her?
Well, it's an old story. Now I have you, Mary.
David is kind and fun to talk to. I wondered why his ex dumped him, but at that time I didn't think too much about it. About 6 months into our relationship, David proposed to me. There's no reason for me to refuse. I happily chose to become his wife. While I was being nervous, I went to his parents' house to greet them, and my in-laws welcomed me. Mary, you work at a major company, don't you? That's amazing. Ah, yes. Are you planning to continue working after you get married? Yes, that's the plan. If both of you work, you'll have more financial flexibility, and I think that's good. My mother-in-law, a full-time homemaker, surprisingly supported my career. I was relieved, as I thought I would be told to quit my job and take care of the house. David also agreed to continue working after we got married. Thus, without any particular trouble with my in-laws, our married life began. We purchased a house under my name, and just when we were about to start our new life, David came to me with a serious look and said he has something to talk about.
Actually, my parents are in debt.
What? I had never heard such a story before. Debt? How much?
At first, it wasn't much, but as it got delayed, the debt grew bigger and bigger.
I asked while bracing myself. Just tell me, how much is the debt?
About $100,000.
That much?
Even if they wanted to repay it, my parents live on their pensions, right? They can't repay it as much as they like, and the debt is just growing.
I see.
Mary, you mentioned before we got married that there's some inheritance from your father, right? To be frank, how much is it?
The conversation was taking a bad turn. Could it be? Unfortunately, my suspicion was correct. David asked if it was possible to repay his parents' debt with the inheritance I received from my father. Why do I have to? We even have a mortgage on our house.
Even if we keep repaying little by little, we'll never see the end.
What about your savings, David?
I don't have any savings.
But before we got married, you said you had savings when I told you that I have some savings, right?
I was just trying to match with what you were saying then, Mary. The truth is, I have 0 savings. That's why only you can pay it off.
David stubbornly pleaded me. Although it's quite unreasonable, we indeed can't ignore the debt. The problem was that I didn't have $100,000 in savings. My savings are only the $70,000 I received as an inheritance. What will we do about the rest?
We have quite a bit of leeway with both of us working, right? And Mary, you often work overtime, so I want you to use that overtime pay to the debt.
In other words, he wants to put all the money I received from my father and the money I earned through hard work towards repaying the debt. Looking at him, it seems there's no other way except for me to help. Fortunately, the total amount from the inheritance and my salary is not an unpayable amount. I reluctantly agreed to his request. Later, my in-laws rushed to our house. "Mary, you're going to help repay the debt? Thank you so much." My mother-in-law was overjoyed and crying. David responded proudly.
"Mom, you should be grateful to me too. If I hadn't married Mary, things wouldn't have gone so smoothly like this."
"Yes, indeed. I thought you were a good wife from the first time I met you." David's judgment was correct. My father-in-law was also overjoyed, hugging David.
"Well done, David. Now we can walk around without trembling at the thought of debt collectors."
"We can finally eat out."
"Shall we celebrate with steak?"
"Agreed." Looking at my cheerful husband and in-laws, I was dumbfounded. Eating out for steak while having debts, and they're not even the one repaying the debts. David, noticing my dumbfounded expression, finally cautioned them.
"Hey, calm down, Mom and Dad. It's because you two spend money without thinking that the debt keeps increasing, right? Despite being big spenders, you can't even calculate."
When David said that mockingly, my mother-in-law huffed and argued back. "Oh, you're the same, aren't you, David?"
"Huh? Why me?"
"You've always been showy, David. Whenever you had a girl you liked, you'd go into debt just to take her on dates or buy her presents. It's no wonder you got dumped when they found out you had no money."
"What the hell? I learned from my past mistakes and married Mary without spending a dime. Smart move, right?"
"Well, I'll admit, that did help." Now it makes sense. The reason why David was quiet about why his ex-girlfriend dumped him was because of that. Listening to David and my in-laws' conversation, it seems like he married me for my money, which makes me sick. Even about the debt repayment, it's like they're blatantly saying, "David, who caught the money tree, is amazing." My mother-in-law continued, "David has always been like that. Whenever he's got a girl he likes, he starts spending money left and right. It's pretty obvious." Hearing that, I realized something. Lately, he's been frequently withdrawing money from our joint account. Could it be? Disregarding my suspicions, David, as if he had a brilliant idea, spoke.
"Right. Mary, you've been transferring money to my family every month, right? But since everyone in my family is bad at managing money, can you repay the debt directly from now on?"
"What?" As I was baffled by his absurd proposal, my in-laws celebrated cheerfully. "That's a good idea. Here you go, Mary. This is the account number for the transfer." My mother-in-law handed me the account number for the transfer while I was still being speechless. "So how much can you repay each month, and how many years will it take to repay it all?" As I responded to my mother-in-law, who was asking as if it was none of her business, I felt a bit irritated. Firstly, I'll put the $70,000 from the inheritance towards the debt repayment, so the remaining amount is $30,000, right? If it's $30,000, I think I can transfer about $8,000 to $9,000 per month and repay it in 5 years. 5 years, huh? I guess it can't be helped if it takes that long. And that's how I started gradually repaying my in-laws' debt. First, I'll repay the debt with the $70,000 from the inheritance as immediate payment. This should ease the debt collectors from coming back for a while. But that's when I found out. My husband was having an affair behind my back. No wonder he was spending a lot and it was getting out of hand. I won't stand for him having fun by himself. If he's doing that, then I'll take countermeasures as well. In 5 years, I hope that you'll be panicking for what's going to happen. For the next 5 years until the debt was fully paid, I decided to handle all communications with the debt collectors, letting my husband and in-laws live as they always had. This was all for the sake of my plan that I was carrying out behind their backs. I can't wait to see their surprised faces 5 years from now. And then, one day, 5 years later, David was looking at the bank book.
As expected of you, Mary. You've been making the payments on the dot every month, and the remaining $30,000 is all paid off.
Yes, so it seems.
I'm really grateful to you. Anyway, I actually have something important to tell you.
Something important?
I want us to break up.
David said that with a serious face.
You know the saying, when the money runs out, the relationship ends? Actually, there's a girl I want to be with. Once you and I break up, she's going to move in here. So, I want you to go to my parents' house.
What's that supposed to mean? I immediately lashed back at him. Wait a minute, why do I have to go to your parents' house?
She hates complicated things like dealing with in-laws. My dad and mom are as careless with money as ever, so it would be easier for you to manage them if you lived together, right?
You said you want to break up, right? Even then you expect me to take care of your parents? That's just absurd, no matter how you look at it.
My parents rely on you completely. Now that it's come to this, you should take care of them till the end. Besides, if they get into debt again, it'll be a hassle for you to pay it back, won't it? My husband, who had left the repayment of the debt to me and had been enjoying an affair behind my back. But it wasn't just that. Even after the divorce, he planned to leave his parents to me, and so that he could live with his lover. That's absolutely unforgivable. I won't let that happen. I'm sick and tired of David's selfishness. Barely controlling my anger, I tried to respond calmly. I fully agree with the divorce. I see. It's good that you're an understanding woman.
But the one who's leaving is you.
Huh? What are you talking about? This is my house.
No, it's not. Have you forgotten that when we bought this place, I paid all the down payment from my savings, and the name on the agreement was mine, right?
Was it really like that?
You said at that time, I don't want the property under my name because I don't want to be forced to repay the mortgage if anything happens. I should have felt that something didn't feel right back then when you said that. If I had noticed your incompetency from the start, I wouldn't have had to go around in such circles.
Well, whatever. You're broke, so I'll give you the house to live in out of pity.
Broke?
Yeah, right. You've used all your inheritance for paying off the debt, and you've been transferring all of your salary over, so you have zero savings, right?
I do have savings.
Huh? There's no way, right? I just checked your transfer history.
Then you understand. All the money is in a separate account." At these words, David froze for a moment, then screamed out in a panic.
Wait a minute. What do you mean separate account?
He checked the bank book in a rush. Only then did David realize that the account I had been transferring to every month was a different one than the debt repayment account.
Then what about my parents' debt?
Of course, it remains as it is. You were leaving all the dealings with the debt collectors to me, so you didn't notice what I've been doing at all. Upon hearing this, David turned pale.
You've been deceiving me all along?
Deceiving? Aren't you doing the same thing?
What do you mean?
You've been cheating on me behind my back, haven't you? At these words, David flinched.
When did I ever cheat?
You know better, don't you? I noticed 5 years ago, though.
5 years ago?
That day, I felt uneasy about the conversation between you and your mother. You have always been one to spend money when you have a girl you like. I noticed then that you were starting to splurge.
That's unbelievable.
Thinking that might be the case, I carefully observed you and saw you with women everywhere. When I was convinced you were cheating, I decided to move all the money, which was supposed to be used for debt repayment, into a separate account, to secure my own living expenses after divorcing you, David. After learning the truth, David was left in a daze for a while.
I need to contact my dad right away.
David immediately contacted his parents, and they rushed to our house. Perhaps they already knew what was happening, as they came at me with great fury. "Mary, what do you mean you haven't been repaying the debt?" I responded in a cool tone to my father-in-law, who was shouting with anger. Why should I repay the debt of someone who's going to become a stranger to me? Besides, there's no way I could hand over my salary to a husband who betrayed me, is there? Stranger?
Betrayed? What are you talking about?
My father-in-law had a look on his face as if he couldn't understand what was going on. I didn't miss the flustered look on my mother-in-law's face next to him. You understand what I'm talking about, don't you, mother-in-law? What? There's no point in playing dumb. It was you, mother-in-law, who told me about the signs that David has a new woman he's in love with. There's no way you wouldn't notice about his affair, right? That's... Not only money, but your sense of ethics is also careless, isn't it, mother-in-law? How rude! I just want my David to be happy. David's happiness, huh? You are a monster who tramples on my happiness by making me repay for your debt and wishes for your son's happiness. At those words, my mother-in-law fell awkwardly silent. My father-in-law then apologized to me.
Mary, I'm truly sorry for what my son has done. Can't you cheer up? The money, you only moved it to a separate account to get back at David, right?
After telling me that, my father-in-law scolded David.
What on earth are you doing, David? To cheat on such a good wife with another woman? Apologize sincerely and ask Mary for forgiveness. And hurry up and use the money in the account to repay the debt.
I sighed to myself. After all, nothing about these people have changed since 5 years ago. Ultimately, all they think about is their debt being repaid. No matter how much you apologize, I have no intention of forgiving you. I have no intention of being a part of your family either. It seems like he wants to divorce quickly and be with his new lover, so why don't you try to mooch everything off her the next time? At those words, David, unable to bear it any longer, shouted.
I can't let her do that.
Hearing that, I completely lost my temper. So it's okay to let me do it, but not her? Who do you think I am?
That's... You always listen to what I say, but she's selfish, and it's a hassle when she throws a fit.
I see. I certainly have been too obedient to you. I have my regrets too, so from now on I will do as I please. First, I will claim the damages you done to our married life with your affair, and the $70,000 from my father's inheritance that I used to pay off the debt, I will make sure you return it all." Then David and his parents suddenly started panicking.
Wait a minute. You know I don't have any savings, right? There's no way I can afford to pay you for the damages.
"That's not my problem. Why don't you ask your mistress to help with the payments? But I will also be claiming damages from her too."
Even to her? If I do that, she might break up with me.
Oh wow, how shallow could your relationship be with her? You're saying that she's been with someone else's husband without any commitment?
Mary, please, reconsider.
His father joined him in.
"Mary, I beg you as well. We won't be able to survive if we have to go back to living with debt."
At that, I exaggeratedly shrugged my shoulders. That's right. With just the remaining $30,000 in debt repayment, you two are already at your limit, aren't you?
So we don't have to return the $70,000 from the inheritance?
Yes, I'll stop claiming from you two. They sighed in relief, and David looked at me.
Then withdraw the damages from me too. If you're giving up on the inheritance, give up on the damages you're claiming too.
Huh? What are you talking about? I have no intention of giving up on reclaiming my precious father's inheritance.
But you said you won't claim the $70,000.
Yes, from your parents. Instead, I'll add a reimbursement of $70,000 to the damages I'm claiming from you.
No, you're joking, right? You have no heart.
I'll say that back right to you. You took my father's inheritance and were having an affair behind my back. No decent person would do such a thing.
Mary, I beg you.
Shut up! I don't want to see your face ever again. From now on, we will communicate through a lawyer. Goodbye. I yelled at David and stormed out of the house. With that, I headed straight for a law firm and told them everything that had happened. A month later, with the help of my lawyer, I completed the divorce and procedures to claim for damages and was finally able to cut ties with David and his parents. I didn't get all the money, but we reached an agreement that David would pay considerably more than usual. David, who had no savings, was deeply in debt, as was his family. But that seems like an appropriate end for them. Thanks to forcing separate account transfers for these 5 years, I was able to save money at a rather high pace. With the damages fee as well, for now, I can treat myself to delicious meals and do what I love. Once I'm refreshed, I feel like I'll be able to start anew and work hard again.